Actress who fell in love with a homeless man gets an unexpected surprise. Love is known to be found in the most unexpected places, which can catch the person completely off guard. The love story of Emmy Abrahamson and Vic Kukula shows that this cannot be truer, as the two people from vastly different backgrounds managed to get together despite all the odds. Emmy was a well-educated young woman working to become an actress. She was born in Sweden but traveled a lot during her childhood, as her father was a foreign affairs journalist, which meant that she had quite a few languages nailed down. In contrast, Vic Kukula was a young man who'd given up on his education and had instead gone backpacking around Europe. Unfortunately, he ran out of money, and instead of going back to his home in Canada, he resorted to sleeping on the streets, getting through the days by begging and drinking heavily. While wandering around a park in Amsterdam, Vic saw Emmy sitting on a bench waiting for her friend. He later said in an interview, "This beautiful woman was sitting there by herself and she looked super content with a smile on her face. I just had to go and talk to her." So he ignored the fact that he had dirty fingernails and ragged clothes and mustered up the courage to go talk to her. As for Emmy, she didn't quite know why this smelly young man wanted to chat with her, but there was just something about him that compelled her to listen. So there they were, a beautiful young woman and a beggar sitting together on the bench, chatting about everything that came to mind and making it work. When Emmy finally got up to leave, Vic had a moment of impulse and asked Emmy if they could meet again on the same bench 6 days later. Emmy's response could be summed up like this: "On the one hand, I was put off by his disheveled appearance, but on the other, there was something about him that was so intriguing that I wanted to meet him again." And that's what she decided to do. On Saturday, she arrived at the bench where she first met Vic, but there was no sign of him. The two had agreed to meet there at 3 o'clock, but Emmy found herself waiting almost 20 minutes before she decided to give up. However, as soon as she got up to leave, Vic suddenly arrived, in style, on a bike. "I didn't think you'd come. I came to check just in case," Vic smiled, "and you're here." Emmy and Vic spent the next 6 hours walking around the beautiful city of Amsterdam, having an impromptu picnic, talking, and getting to know each other. As they did so, Emmy was impressed by his optimism and zest for life. "He had a lust for life that was both mesmerizing and contagious," she later said. "I'd never met anyone like him before, someone who found everything a huge adventure." But Emmy wasn't the only one who was quickly falling in love. Vic, who wouldn't believe that someone like Emmy would even give him a chance, was now positive that he was in love with her. However, the main issue was that Emmy had to return to Vienna in a couple of weeks, so they had 3 more dates in Amsterdam, which just made their love stronger before it was time to leave. "I tried to fight my feelings as there were so many things wrong with him according to my worldview. He had no education, no career prospects, was 5 years younger than me, and was living in a bush," Emmy said. But love works in mysterious ways, and Emmy still gave Vic her contact information and phone number before flying home. Since Vic had no phone nor a permanent address, keeping in touch was bound to be difficult, and all conclusions pointed towards the love being nothing more than a fling that would end there and then. That truly seemed the case when weeks went by with no contact, but one day Emmy got the surprise of her life. One Monday morning, Emmy's phone rang and 2 simple words were said: "I'm here." Emmy didn't need a name to know exactly who was talking to her, even if she was completely overwhelmed by the fact that the man had managed to follow her so quickly. As for Vic, it hadn't been that easy. After Emmy had left Amsterdam, he had found various odd jobs to do and worked non-stop to be able to afford a train ticket to Vienna. And when he got there, the first thing he did was call Emmy to let her know that they would soon be reunited. However, the happy story wouldn't quite end there yet. After all, Vic still needed to meet Emmy's family and friends, and though Emmy saw a funny, handsome, and kind-hearted man in Vic, she imagined that it would be difficult to convince her family that he was right for her. In the beginning, she didn't tell them everything about Vic's background, hoping they would gradually like him for who he was, but there were still many who weren't convinced. It bothered them that he didn't have an education, Emmy stated in an interview. "Before they met him, my dad was also afraid that Vic was going to give me some terrible disease, and my mom was worried that he was going to steal from me." But after meeting him a couple of times, Emmy's parents discovered that Vic was intelligent and compassionate, even though he didn't have a formal education, and they were eventually convinced that he would make their daughter happy. But not everyone was willing to give Vic a chance. "I lost two of my oldest friends as they refused to accept him," Emmy said. "I missed them. I also feel angry that they never took the time to get to know him properly." However, life goes on, and Vic was determined to prove to Emmy that she had made the right choice. He decided that it was high time for him to get back on his feet, and his love for Emmy gave him the motivation to turn his life around. He took the first steps to stop drinking, and with Emmy's love and support, he studied full-time and graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering, and later went on to find a job that he wouldn't have believed possible, a design engineer. "Vic once told me that I was the first person who believed in him," Emmy said, "and that's all it takes. Just saying I believe in you can change someone's world." But the story doesn't stop there. Today, Emmy and Vic are married and had twins a year later. It wasn't just Vic's life that changed for the better though, as Emmy found a new calling as well. She decided not to pursue a career in acting and instead became a writer, making her debut in 2011 and being nominated for multiple awards the following year for her book, My Dad is Kind and My Mom is a Foreigner. She also decided to novelize their love story and wrote a book titled How to Fall in Love with a Man Who Lives in a Bush, a novel, in January 2018. Publisher HarperCollins described the book as funny, filthy, literally, and fizzing with life and based on a true story. This is the perfect antidote to all those books promising you that Prince Charming lives in a castle. Now Emmy and Vic live a happy life and have taught each other a lot. "He opened my eyes to the lives of homeless people, a world I'd always chosen to ignore and one most of us want to forget about," Emmy said. "They're people who make us feel uncomfortable and we try to get away from them as fast as possible." But now Emmy knows the truth, and though their relationship is criticized by some, the two are still happy to be together. Emmy also tells her readers that they should never judge a book by its cover, and that it's important to take the time to get to know someone before dismissing them as just a person without a future. Sometimes just making eye contact, smiling, and saying hi to someone you wouldn't usually talk to can change their life, or yours, Emmy wrote.